In this presentation, I'm going to show you how to use the Advanced Scheduler to host a meeting in Cisco WebEX. We'll begin by designating our meeting topic. I'm just going to make one up. We're going to call this MS Word is what I'm going to teach about. And we can give the option of a password. I'm going to say it's watermelon. So all attendees that want to come to this meeting will have to know that secret password. Now we'll go into the date and time. I want this meeting to happen on March the 25th, 2011. And notice the San Francisco time. This is actually going to be on Chicago time. So I'll click San Francisco time, and the window will pop up, and I can choose the Chicago time. So it's going to be on Central time. I'll approve that, and you can see the meeting time's adjusted. Well, I actually want it for 2:30 in the afternoon. So we'll just go ahead and select that time, 2:30 in the afternoon. And Chicago time. Now attendees can join how long before the start time? I'm going to let people hang out for about 10 minutes before the meeting actually begins. Now I'm going to be the presenter, so I'll make sure that this is not selected. I don't want the first person to show up to be the presenter. That's going to be me. Attendees will connect via audio, and we'll look at that in one moment. Now this meeting is going to last for, let's say, 2 hours exactly. We could, of course, round that into 15-minute increments or whatever we wanted here. I'm going to say 2 minutes exactly. Now before this meeting begins, I want all of the people that I invited to receive a reminder via email. I'm going to say 45 minutes. If this particular meeting were going to happen on a regular basis, we could go into this recurrence and set up a schedule. But for now, this is a one and done meeting. Let's look at our audio conference over on the right. When we click this section, we can choose how will people be able to hear me speak. Via a dial-up number, which WebEx will provide. Are we going to use our computers, so voice over IP? Or will they only be listening to me, so they won't be able to communicate? I'm going to leave it as WebEx audio. Now I could go in to invite the attendees. I could enter an email address for each person, or with my address book, I can go into select attendees. Because this is just for pretend, I'm going to put my junk email address in. So if this were a live email, a real email address, that individual would receive an invitation and then they could confirm. Now this option is telling people, hey, you need the rich media player because I may be using some videos or Flash or things like this. So it's just reminding people there'll be a web link in this email address or in this email to them for the meeting that they need to make sure they can play certain types of videos. I want to see what they get. So send a copy of the invite to me, and then if I want to be really secure, I can say don't put that password in the meeting. And when I select that, this pops up and it says you have to communicate the password to your attendees by other means. So I've got to call them or text it to them. The password for the meeting won't be in the email address if you want to be really secret. I'm not going to make that happen. Now registration. Right now there is no registration. You have to know the password. When I click require attendee registration, I get a little pop-up here. It says, if I'm going to require this, there's some conflicting options, particularly the password. So I would have to turn that off because people have to register and receive my approval in order to join the meeting. But I'm going to leave it as none. I mean, I could leave it on and all these options we'd have, but I'm going to say none, that if you know the password and I invite you, you can come to my meeting. Now the agenda and the welcome screen, I can type all of this information up or type it over to another program and paste it in here, but it lets people know what the flow of the course will be. I'm not going to worry about the agenda right now. Now the meeting options, I'm going to set up what can participants do during my meeting. Can they chat? Can they use a webcam? Can they take notes? Or will one person take all the notes, like all of your minutes, and disperse those to others? I'm going to say that people can take notes. You can take your own notes in the meeting and share those with others if you want. Now this is a really important feature. If you have deaf or hearing impaired participants, you should enable closed captioning. With this option selected, an area will show up on the right hand side of your meeting, a little panel where you'll have one person that will transcribe what you say into text so that individuals that are hearing impaired will be able to read what's being said. This is not a service that WebEx provides. You'll have to have an individual actually type what's being said for those people. File transfer, am I going to share some documents like some sample files and templates? Sure. And then UCF Rich Media, this allows me to play things like Flash and AVI files and MPEGs right within WebEx, right within my virtual classroom. So I'm going to leave that enabled. Now attendee privileges, just a little bit deeper than chat. Can they save the presentation to watch it later? Can they print it? Now Annotate would allow people to interact with my whiteboard and my screen, so they could go up and draw or circle things. I probably don't want that right now. I could turn it on during my meeting if I thought it was necessary. Do I want people to see who else is in the meeting? Sometimes you don't want that to happen, so we can turn that off. If I have a PowerPoint slide, I could slideshow, I could choose view thumbnails, and then individuals would see all of the slides in a thumbnail view down below the main slide that I'm discussing, and they could scroll through those if they wanted to. And then there's some other options here as well, like viewing documents and pages, and can they talk to the operator if there's a dial-up or you're using a conferencing service. And then you have the options here for chat. Now you can change these later in your meeting, but are you going to allow private chat with the host, with you the presenter, and then even other participants? I think sometimes people chat with each other and it can be distracting, so I'm going to turn that option off. Finally, review will show us all of the things that we have configured about this meeting. So all of those options and a little summary here. Now if this were a meeting that I were having over and over, but not on a recurring basis, so I'm periodically going to have this type of a meeting, I could come down and choose to save this as a template so I wouldn't have to set up all of those options. Once I save it as a template, I can load it later, and then I could edit things like the date and time and the attendees. But it's a really fast way of creating a meeting. Once I click on Schedule Meeting, it's going to configure that schedule, and I just sent out that email. And so here is the summary of the schedule and this email I've created. So that's the advanced scheduler in WebEx and how I can begin to configure a virtual classroom for training.